Welcome back to the Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast, the recap of stage 15 of the Tour of France. We're in Muret, going towards Carcassonne in pretty mild temperatures for this region, 28 degrees, the average of the stage, but the profile's quite difficult. Heavy roads all day, some narrow descents at the end, 170 Ks, 3 categorized climbs, a Cat 3 that comes after 70 Ks. 1.7 Ks at 6.2%. The intermediate sprints after 2.5 Ks at 3%. They then do a Cat 3 that's 6.3 Ks at 6%. And then, but it keeps going up afterwards. Then the hardest climb of the day is to Pas du Sang, 3 Ks, 9.2%. It still keeps going up after that. A horrible false slap before then a narrow road, and it's like 45 Ks of rolling downhill to the finish. Clearly one for the breakaway because Trek aren't going to control for Milan, and Intermarché and Israel were just going to go on the break. And anything else before the stage, Benji? Some pre-stage news?
I've got some pre-stage notes for us to talk about. First of all, there's something we missed in yesterday's stage that I really want to bring up because it was quite a funny moment. On the Col du Tourmalet, Alaphilippe was about to top the climb, and we said it yesterday, super rainy conditions, and there's a woman by the side of the road with like a cardboard sign saying something related to Wout van Aert. We'll get to what's on the cardboard in a bit. But Alaphilippe moves to the right side of the road, rips the cardboard in half, and shoves the cardboard under his jersey. Patrick, for the people that are new to the sport of cycling, why would Alaphilippe put something under his jersey over the top of a climb?
Panache, but also to protect himself from because the wind is coming at your chest, so you have a windbreaker if you don't have a gilet or something. And it's also maybe more aero because it goes under the jersey.
Exactly.
Smarter.
And if you start thinking about triathlon where you've got like these bidon shaped things on your chest to go faster. But I agree, it's windbreaker. But the funny part of the story is that person was there for Wout van Aert. Wout van Aert was dropped 10 minutes earlier, so Wout van Aert never got to see the sign that was half ripped off for him on that climb. So, low-key a funny moment, but today we did see a happy, wholesome ending towards that whole situation where both Alaphilippe and Wout van Aert ended up doing a meet and greet or whatever you call it with that woman with the ripped up cardboard. And apparently the cardboard said the following, Patrick: Wout van Aert, you don't know it, but we're getting married. So, sorry, Sarah, but I think she's got some competition here.
As in they're getting married with Wout van Aert, or she's announcing that they're getting married themselves as a couple, and they want Wout to be the celebrant?
From my interpretation, Flemish-wise, I would say, Wout van Aert, you don't know it yet, but we are getting married. That kind of vibe of like a Wout crush kind of vibe it gave me. But your theory is also a possibility, actually.
Yeah, maybe Van Aert is actually ordained as a priest in Flanders. You'd never know.
Well, but he's definitely a holy man in our country, that's for sure.
Yes, he is. And sometimes holy men get crucified, Benji. And onto this stage, the breakaway format. Remco Evenepoel abandoned on the Tourmalet. But that wasn't the end of it, Benji. Listen, I said me and you discussed third place after the TT. I wrote Remco off. I didn't think he'd collapse like that. I just thought his shape was not. I just thought Lipovic and Bora were going to roll him, and he'd end up fifth or something. I didn't expect this. We got some more news from him, basically about his 3 bad days in a row. And he said that he couldn't train after the Dauphiné, like couldn't do any intensity. And this to me feels like an incomplete story. I feel like this is a whole story going back to when he got doored and then the build up from there.
Yeah. So basically, Remco Evenepoel had that crash in the off season, which was during training. He was riding on the side of the road and a postman opened their door and Remco hit the door, in doing so getting injured. That was the story of the off season. Then he came back from that after missing the first part of the season in the Ardennes and build up towards the Tour de France. Now, after the Dauphiné, I heard some rumors about imperfect training in the same way that I heard some rumors about antibiotics from Roglic, etc. towards the Tour de France. So there were a few riders with issues before the Tour de France and the run-in towards the race, but I didn't necessarily expect it to have this impact for Remco Evenepoel as well. But also, Remco's level at the Dauphiné just wasn't good enough climbing-wise. So I was, like last year, hoping for an increase in climbing level towards the Tour de France. We didn't see that. Now, is that because of the lack of ability to train intensity, or is there an underlying reason that we don't know about? Because on one end, I am of the belief that Remco Evenepoel probably could have finished that stage in the Gruppetto and perhaps could have gone for a breakaway stage later in the race. But if that are not his ambitions, and if the team decides to rest him towards the Vuelta, then I also understand that. Even though I would personally kind of like to see him battle through it, from a team perspective, I can understand that they take him out of the race. Now, if we then look at the whole situation of the training, it's impossible to speculate for me what the underlying reason is. Like, I saw an article by Jonas Kruter about a possibility that it could all date back to his shoulder injury, etc. It could be anything. So it's on the team to figure that out. It's on Remco to figure that out with his support in terms of medical support. And I guess we're hoping for the best for Remco in the future, because this is not the best Remco we've seen in our life. Last year was the best Remco we've seen in our life. And that's his ceiling up to now when it comes to GC abilities. And if he can get that back, that level at the Tour de France that he had last year, then he can podium the race again.
Well, last year's Remco level would be second on GC right now.
I think so as well, actually. I reckon he competes with Vingegaard for a second with his level of last year.
Because he would have had 1 minute still on the TT, and then he could have ridden more negative in the wheels because he's following well enough on the climbs on half, except for maybe yesterday. But he would have been really in the fight for second without last year's level. So I don't know if it's losing too much weight, whether it's just a build up. We don't know. But clearly Remco is better than this. I think both Benji and I agree. We forestall the criticism that because he's not a GC rider, that always comes back. It's like, okay, well, if the guy who came third in the tour is not a GC rider, what's everyone else doing? Then, like,
I agree.
We have to stop the narrative, and we've actually seen it in this tour. I'm actually glad someone like Vogler is still going for GC because I think it's honorable. Also because he's not going to be allowed to win a stage. But like, just because Pogacar and Vingegaard exist doesn't mean you should stop being a GC rider, or mean you're not a GC rider.
Well, that is for sure. But I would also like to add that he's had quite a few years with injuries, though. So while I fully agree with your discussion point there comes a point where if we go through the years, he had his Lombardia crash, which ruled him out for the year that came afterwards, basically. He's had very successful years throughout, with the one where he won the Vuelta, the ones where he won World Championships, Olympics, etc. So it's always like a year of everything, a year of not much for Remco because of those injuries. And I do hope he has a run of years in the future where that does not happen, because right now, at the end of the day, the years are counting up a little bit. So how many years would you say a rider like Remco still has at the highest level of the sport? 5?
Well, it could be
roughly.
Could be 15.
Well, yes, but then you're in Valverde territory. On average, I'm thinking, because like
I think it just depends on how hungry you are and how willing to train you are. I mean, Roglic won a Vuelta last year, and I think the issue for Roglic is he's just crashed too many times and has beat his body up. But Roglic, still with a good run, with perfect prep, could have won the Giro. So this year, and that didn't happen, of course, because of crashes. But I'm just saying, like, it's up to Remco to decide. I mean, maybe he joined World Tour out of juniors at 18. So is it realistic that he can do the Valverde? I don't know. It's up to Remco. Maybe he'll get a new lease of life at Bora. I will say Valverde never had the same pressure because he won Vuelta Murcia, and that was like sick. Job done each year, like no one gave a fuck if Valverde collapsed in the tour. Like, do you remember what Valverde did in the tour each year? Like,
well, the only thing I do remember that there was always the pressure for
Worlds he choked every time until 2018.
What, sorry?
And the Worlds he choked every time until he won it.
That's true. That and altitude. Those were the two things that hung over his head all the time. And obviously the few doping practices, but
I think Valverde didn't really know what was going on. So he's just like,
are you implying he has dementia or something? Or
Bro, he couldn't read a road book. It's a good thing. He just like riding his bike a lot. He just do 40,000 Ks a year, do 1,200 hours a year, race 75 days a year, stay at 1% body fat, and just chill out. Like, so it's different.
That's why it sound easy.
It is. For Valverde, it was. Mate. Whereas if you have the Flemish press on your ass every time you mistake a gel or look a bit menacingly at a child after a finish, that happened, right? This tour. That was the English press.
I did like that during the race, when he was about to abandon, he gave his beat on to a kid by the side of the road, and Red Bull bought a Hansgrohe kid.
That's our thumbnail.
Confirming the transfer.
When the news happens, the LRCP emergency transfer episode, Luke, write down your little black book. That is going to be the thumbnail. That one right there. Plus a weirdly photoshopped one with his like PCS avatar head on a Bora kit. I always love those ones. I think we already did that one.
I'm afraid
of like a week ago.
Yeah, Frankenstein together that one for the last clip, I'm afraid.
All right, stage starting. Everyone wants to be in the break. Literally everybody. I realized this morning, Benji, that Van der Poel really, really cannot be in this break if you're a little Trek, and that was going to be an important dynamic for this stage, or not last night. Like, there's 70 points on offer. If he takes the full 70 delta, he's in green. That was something to navigate in break formation. Visma jumping, Schmidt jumping, everyone's jumping. Nilsson Powers does what's actually turned into the smart thing, which is to get a gap as a solo rider. Everyone lets you go because you're a stupid solo rider. You then start riding just at tempo, and you get a gap for free of 50 seconds, and then you stay ahead of the chaos behind you, and eventually someone will bridge to you. That's how Abra Hansen won a stage.
Yeah, that's true. But also Tobias Foss was then the solo chaser in that specific scenario. But this entire breakaway formation was marked by a crash that changed the whole scenario completely, right? We go into a roundabout, and on the exit of that roundabout, a few riders crash, including the likes of Alaphilippe, Tish Benoit seemingly on the floor as well. Consonni was pretty badly hurt, but he looked to complete the stage, I'm pretty sure. Then Lipovic had, I think, hurt his left shoulder as well, so quite a few riders on the ground. In doing so, also causing a split in the peloton, because quite a few riders were held up by that crash, including Jonas Vingegaard, who had been at the back during the entire breakaway formation up to this point. And we're kind of only 20 kilometers into the stage, not even probably, but that's a massive impact on the breakaway formation. Not just Vingegaard being behind and other GC riders as well, Lipovic also being inflicted in that crash, but also a couple of riders that are behind the crash that might have wanted to be in the breakaway later, but decided to stay at the back because they thought, okay, break's gonna jump for the next half an hour, and maybe in an hour the break will go, you know?
Well, Julian Alaphilippe, this is a stage he'd want to win, and he's the man on the ground. So, or lots of other riders of club. It was basically the break was created by the crash, except for Pogačar. So, like, everybody in the Group 1 that forms now, there's no GC riders except Pogačar.
And Jorgensen, not a GC rider, but also a rider that does not end into the breakaway. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that fiery discussion later.
So everyone then starts trying to get away from Pogačar in the breakaway. So because the break is not going to go with Pogačar. It's like, it's just not going to go with him because everyone's going to chase you all day. And then we see Affini pacing Vingegaard behind. Bora dropped Van Poppel back in the Van Dijks. They pace. Lipovic was further behind. They spent a lot of effort to get to the Visma Group 2. And then that Visma Group 2 is still on like 55 seconds. And then Israel are well represented in front. I think they had Stewart and Lutsenko. There's Van der Poel with Groves. There's no Ineos, I don't think.
I don't think so.
And
Wellens
Milan
with Pogačar, I think.
Wellens was with Pogačar, and the breakaway jumping it goes on for a long time, Benji. I think in part because Pogačar was policing who was going into the break.
Yeah, exactly. So just to sketch the scene again. So as you said, Vingegaard is now 55 seconds behind this group with Pogačar, of which 90% of that group with Pogacar will eventually be in the resulting breakaway of the day. That's the point you just made. But I do want to add the factor that this next thing, I think a lot of people were frowning eyebrows. I think that's an expression. I'm not sure about it. They were frowning eyebrows at the situation. That sounds cool. Anyway, they were frowning eyebrows at the fact that Visma-Leasebike was pacing Vingegaard back with Sepp Kuss and Simon Yates behind a team car as well for a bit in that group 55 seconds back, trying to get back to the front. And at the same time, we see Visma-Leasebike attacking at the front in the group where Pogacar is with Wout van Aert, Kampenaerts, and Jorgensen. And my perspective is, and I think I actually have an unpopular opinion on this, I think it's actually the smart thing to do. Because at the end of the day, I'm sorry, but Jonas Vingegaard has a low chance of winning this Tour de France, to the point that I believe only bad luck or crashes for Pogacar or a very bad unexpected day can lead to Pogacar losing this Tour de France. Next to that, all the competitors that are close to Vingegaard in GC are also with Vingegaard in that group behind, or like Lipovic, even behind that group. So it's not like there's another dangerous GC rider in that front group that Visma doesn't want to let go. So I'm perfectly fine with Wout van Aert, Kampenaerts keeping the jumping in the front group happening. And the reason is because if they don't do it, a break will go without them.
For sure. This is what, say Van Aert and co wait. You know what happens, Benji? Pogacar goes back with them, and then the break is just gone.
Yeah.
And you just dropped yourself out of the breakaway. For what? The move with Pogacar is not going anywhere. The quicker you get away from him, the quicker he just sits up and is caught by the chasing group. And secondly, like, it's not going to go. What? It's going to go 130 Ks. He doesn't have Pollard there. It's not going to go. So there's no need for panic. Also, but the reason it took longer is because Jorgensen was trying to get in the break, and Pogacar was then following every move with Jorgensen in it. I don't know why, but like
we've spoken about this UAE blacklist for a few times, and Paul had mentioned that the first time in some podcast, maybe a year and a half ago in German, I'm pretty sure, and he brought up that UAE has this blacklist in the team bus where they've got a list of riders that you don't want to be on, referring to riders that they don't want to see go in the breakaway, or referring to riders that they don't want to see win a stage, etc. And I've got a big feeling that ever since maybe a year ago, Jorgensen has been high up on that list. And I'm pretty sure he's like number one on that list based on the on the last 2 years. And
only blacklist policy on is like when the dentist has to charge a standard consultation fee and it takes twice as long as normal.
Jesus.
But you're right. It's like clearly Pogacar, he's like, I don't care that you're out of GC, you're not going. And you know what, Benji? You know what? It's actually smart. Because if Jorgensen goes in this break with Kampenaerts and Van Aert, even if Wellens goes in, I think Visma win. Like, Jorgensen's a GC level rider in this race, and for the most part, and on that 3K 9% climb, he's dropping Wellens. And then Kampenaerts just sits on Wellens. So it actually makes sense, because then the break forms, and by the way, let's go back to green jersey. I need to hold a mirror up to myself.
I think you just hit like your microphone in the process, buddy, because I don't hear you anymore. You held a mirror into your microphone. So he's now going into the settings. He's trying to find it, because Patrick, technically not the greatest person in the world. He's now gone out of my software. So I will hold a mirror in front of myself. So I'm doing the mirroring instead, because Patrick has fell apart, I'm afraid.
Can you hear me?
Are you back? Yes, I can hear you.
I just
was
my
holding
cable
the mirror in front of me, but
let me hold up a mic. So I want to hold up a mirror to myself, looking at the camera. Remember when I did that thing? I was like, "Listen to me, you little fucks," about the green jersey. That was on the assumption that Jonathan Milan would not get dropped in the peloton on the flat. I didn't realize at that moment. I didn't realize Jonathan Milan would just get dropped by the peloton on every flat stage in break formation, and I don't think it's been the most well-organized green jersey campaign in terms of like, why is Milan jumping himself when Thibaut Naesen exists? Like, he should be. And Little Trek start panicking because Van der Poel's in the break with Caden Groves. No Trek, I don't think, Benji. Not a single Trek.
Correct.
And no Binny. And they're trucking. There's Lutsenko pulling for Stewart. There's Campenaerts pulling for Van Aert. There's
Lots of riders riding.
There's just big trucks riding. Clement Rousseau, name them. They're moving. And then Turns is on the front of the peloton after Vingegaard's come back. Vingegaard comes back. It's shut down. Sorry, yes?
The way Vingegaard comes back, that panic was so unnecessary. He literally duo bridges with Romeo from the group he's in towards the peloton group where, because that breakaway has formed at the front, Pogacar has now dropped back together with Jorgensen to the actual peloton. So breaker of the day has formed the front. Pogacar's back in the peloton. Vingegaard gets back to that peloton by duo bridging with Romeo, panic style, for absolutely no reason. Like, these groups are coming back together. It's 140 kilometers to go, guys. Calm the fuck down.
It was the Movistar even Romeo bridge was crazy. I can sort of understand it because they want to get there before the break goes, but he got there too late. Movistar got there too late because they picked this this was an even Romeo Fuga de la Fuga break from way back. Nelson Oliveira came second to Pollitt or Simmons or Schurns in 2021 in an almost identical stage from memory. But yeah, they don't get there. So Trek start pacing because, like we said, green jersey. If Van der Poel is going to take 20 points at the IS uncontested.
Yeah.
If he wins the stage, he goes into green. If he comes third or fourth in the stage, he's going like much closer to green. And it's looking very, very bad for John because also Milan's getting dropped. So Milan takes no points at the IS because he gets dropped on like a 1K 6% climb. He's fucked. And so Trek are pacing all out. Then Ineos, they never give up. And that's what, like the last 2 years of the Tour de France, Benji, the break just never goes. It just never goes because Ineos are like, okay, we've got a 6K 6% hill coming up, climb. We can pull it and keep it at 1 minute and we can bridge across with climbers on that climb. And so Ineos pull all out with the whole team, Foss, Thomas, Swift, Watson. They're going for Laurence in like a reduced group sprint / with a pairing of Carlos Rodriguez GC. And yeah, the break just never goes. And eventually Laurence gets in a chasse patate, gets caught. And we get to the base of, I think there was a 1K 6% kicker, Benji, where Simmons went crazy. But Jorgensen started blocking him. Pogacar was in Jorgensen's wheel. Jorgensen eventually went clear with Narvaez. He was on the wheel of a Trek or someone. And that got caught. But yeah, Simmons got across with Storer and another climber from memory. They're the only ones that bridged it before the Category 3.
I think so as well.
It was chaos.
And
is what I'm trying to say.
That Category 3 climb was a moment where there was actually, like, that bridging motion that also included riders that were probably blocked up in that initial crash. So that was what I was pointing at. They didn't make the first group. And I'm not sure Simmons could attack because I thought he was held up by that Alaphilippe crash, for example. But it's very clear that that initial break has formed. Second riders are now joining. It's Storer, Simmons, and Jorgensen once again being marked by Pogacar in that. Stuyven helping Simmons getting to the front. So lots of stuff is happening. But just to be clear, this is what the breakaway roughly looks like. We've got Campenaerts, Wout van Aert, Van der Poel, Groves, Wellens is in there. And I gotta say, Wellens is riding in the typical style of not doing anything, sitting at the back and finessing riders to the point that I think there was a Total Energy rider, maybe Verchet, that tried to get Wellens to ride a relay, goes behind Wellens, and then Wellens is like, okay, I'm not following the wheel here. So then Verchet has to close the gap with Wellens and the wheel back to the group. So Wellens was trying to get every single bit of energy out of every rider that he could out of this entire breakaway on the first climb of the day already.
Well, yeah, we're on to the 6K 6% climb. It breaks apart. I can't even remember. Jesus, so much is happening. It breaks apart on that climb. Carlos Rodriguez bridges across with Laurence and a bigger group. He then drops that group. MVDP starts to collapse. So MVDP actually collapses at this point, and then he gets dropped on the last major climb, and he takes no green jersey points at all, right?
No. Not much, at least, because he was not in the group of Wout van Aert at the finish, I'm pretty sure. Am I correct in assuming that? He finishes... I think
he got caught by the peloton.
62nd caught by the peloton. Yep, no green jersey points outside of the ones at the intermediate sprint. So actually a solid outcome for Alpecin. No, not for Alpecin, for Jonathan Milan.
Trek dodged a bullet. Trek dodged a bullet today. I mean, if Van der Poel, say, finishes with the Van Aert group at the end and sprints, big problems for green. I will get to the green where it sits in a second. But yeah, a group goes across on the climb of Stora, Simmons, Campenaerts, Wellens, Lutsenko.
Oh, the ones that get clear.
Get clear on the 6K, 6% climb. Campenaerts is pulling Wellens the whole way back to them. And then but then him and Wellens sit in. It's mainly Stora pulling. They get to the valley. Then Wellens actually starts relaying now in the valley afterwards. The group behind, we've got Lund Andresen. So Picnic are pulling all in for Lund Andresen because it could be a reduced group sprint. They got Barguil there. They got Frank Vandenbroek, who was mislabeled as Oscar Onley, which caused some consternation. But when you looked at how Sivakov was riding in the peloton, it was clear that it wasn't Onley. Yeah. And then Van Aert sitting in. Riesebeck comes back to pull for Alpecin, and sort of they just give up the ghost, I would say, in the valley. It's just no one's pulling. The group of Simmons, Stora, Campenaerts, Lutsenko, Wellens, they get to the bottom of the category 2, or the 3K 9% climb. And again,
the big one.
The hard one, the line is 15Ks 4% because it levels off at the end, like 12Ks of false slide uphill. And I think here, Benji, Campenaerts makes a slight error, and this reminds you of the 2022 Tour. It's like if you're happy with your Tour de France as a team, if you've won everything, and if you're sitting in yellow, you can play the game theory gamble card harder than anybody else. I don't need this stage. My team doesn't need this stage. I have the yellow jersey behind. Wellens brought that attitude into the break. Visma wanted to win today.
Smart.
And it was smart. And he's strong as hell, this Tour de France.
But it's also like the way we've seen Visma Lease bike riding these last week and a half now, it was already clear that they were already trying to like get a victory here or there along the way, like the Simon Yates one. But I also think that they've come to the point, the realization within the team that it's most likely over for GC. So they need these consolation prizes between brackets. They need these stage wins they can get. They need these other trophies they can get along the way. If Vingegaard can't make it happen, which is very likely. It's very unlikely that Vingegaard wins this Tour de France. So they got to try and get everything they want. So that's why getting in this breakaway, trying to hunt for it, Wellens also knows that. So Wellens can try and push these buttons perfectly, and Wellens plays the perfect race. And go ahead.
Here's the mistake, though. Wellens doesn't have a sprinter behind him. Campenaerts does. He has Van Aert behind. He always has that card.
They do have both the same problem. That's that Stora and Simmons aren't sitting still.
There's the problem. So Stora, he nukes the climb. He got to get away. He's got to attack. He attacks hard. Campenaerts comes back. Simmons come back together. Wellens comes back at his own pace with a gap. But I'm saying after that, Benji, Campenaerts just has to sit on Wellens. But the problem again is though, Benji, okay, he does that.
Yeah.
Simmons ain't sitting still. Simmons attacks with Stora. What's Wellens going to do? Oh, you got Van Aert behind? I don't give a fuck. we got the yellow jersey. We won 4 stages.
It's not just being cold-blooded, it's also being aware of what the potential capabilities are of riders. In the same way where we saw the way Luke Plapp won that stage at the Giro, for example, where he used up everybody's plate before jumping, being aware of whether the rider you are following the wheel of, almost choked on my own thoughts there. But Wellens is aware of what Campenaerts' capabilities are and where his limits lies in this race. And as a consequence, he knows that let's try and follow Campenaerts, let's be cold-blooded in his wheel, and he's going to try and close it, and Visma need it more, etc. It's all those things combined together. It's not just the fact that Wellens is strong or Wellens is smart, but it's also that combined, and we see Stora and Simmons having a gap on them, and Campenaerts slowly but surely grinds it back, and towards the end of this climb, there's another move by Stora in which he actually gaps all 3 of them, and there we see a gap that is not large enough for Stora to hold against these 3 rulers on paper. Now, we've seen a super strong Stora at races like Tour of the Alps, but this is the Tour de France, and we're riding against Campenaerts, Simmons, and Wellens. So those riders will find some cooperation towards the top and eventually also get back to Storr's wheel over the top of the Pas du Sang climb. And gotta say,
I mean, these are three of the best versatile rouleurs in the world, but right?
Yep.
But like by definition,
so.
like they've just passed a 3K 9% climb. We've seen what Wellens and Campenaerts and Simmons have been doing all race. They are the best versatile rouleurs in the world. And you've got 45Ks of rolling downhill to navigate against them. You're not holding 5 seconds. You're not even holding 20 seconds. So they start to relay a bit. There's a few attacks on the descent, a probing attack by Simmons, another probing attack by Storr. Campenaerts marks them, doesn't commit to an attack. And then on the false flat uphill section, Wellens goes all in. Barguil had come back to them, just come back to them with Vlasov. It was blocked on the road a bit. Wellens goes from the back, no one in his wheel. Simmons and Barguil. Barguil nearly gets across to him in one corner. There's one right-hander, but then Wellens re-kicks out of it. And that's curtains. Wellens is clear. We all saw Belgian National Championships,
mate,
where he was solo against Remco and Campenaerts. As soon as he had a gap off the wheel, this stage was over.
The second I saw that Tim Wellens was in the breakaway, earlier in the stage already, I thought to myself, okay, it's curtains, Quinn Simmons, I'm sorry I picked you, but it ain't happening. When Wellens was in that group and didn't do anything at the back, I was like, okay, this is going to end with one thing only. With one moment only, where he goes and he never gets back. Because once Wellens has a gap, it's kind of like Healy. He has the strength to keep it going, and there's always a little bit of Group 2 syndrome initially when a rider is gone. It's like, I'm trying to close it, but then you look behind and it's like, okay, are you going to help and relay here or what? And I mean, that little bit of hesitation already, but even
Simmons
then,
wasn't even doing that. Simmons was pulling full and Campenaerts just pulled out off the wheel. They were done. They worked too much.
They work too much, but also Wellens is also notably stronger than these riders as well, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Especially after a climb like that.
It was curtains for that group. Wellens goes clear. Van Aert gets away from his group behind. He comes across with Romeo for a bit. And then Encore and Naesen come back. Thibaut Naesen obviously in better shape. And Vlasov, Lutsenko and Co are caught, and Leknesund. And, Wellens just rides across and wins.
Yeah.
And Campenaerts takes second. He attacks from the group at the end. Alaphilippe wins the sprint for third, Benji. The man who crashed, I don't know if he was the first to crash, but he was involved in the initial crash that caused this stage to become chaotic, comes third. His radio was broken in the crash, didn't hear anything all stage. He thinks he's won and puts his hands in the air. Not
the first time for Mr. Jala. That's very sad to see. Like he sits up ready to celebrate, and I didn't see whether he actually put his hands in the air as well. But at the end of the day, I think Eurosport mentioned that the producer of them said that Alaphilippe thought he won and celebrated as a consequence, and that he didn't want to do any interviews afterwards because he was disappointed, which is understandable if you think you won a Tour de France stage and you didn't. Yeah. It's understandable that you're a bit salty about that. But would have been cool to see Alaphilippe win a stage, not gonna lie. But at the end of the day, he didn't. Tim Wellens was the strongest, and UAE keeps on winning. And how do you think the peloton looks at this? Because we always got this stories about the greediness of Pogacar, the cannibalization, the stuff like that. I've never been fond of that kind of inquiry because of the same reason I gave in week one, that there are breakaway stages where other teams don't try enough. But this is Wellens winning, so it's not the same rider. And also, in the breakaway, they were beaten by a stronger rider. Tim Wellens was the strongest. Simple as that.
UAE put one rider in, let's combine all the break groups, a group of 40.
Yeah.
Okay. Then it's on you to win.
Yeah.
Visma had 2 cards. Wellens outplays them. Little Trek had cards, like Naesen behind, for example. It's, to me, this is completely different. It's a break going. UAE are completely entitled to put a rider in the breakaway to fight for the stage win.
Can I be honest? They're always entitled to try and win the race.
They actually don't do it very often.
They could have won 2 days ago. I'm still of that opinion.
The last rider on UAE to win a Tour de France stage apart from Pogacar was who, Benji?
I mean, yesterday, by the way. But what do you say? Sorry, the last rider too.
The last rider on UAE Team Emirates to win a Luke spoiled it, to win a Tour de France stage, apart from Pogacar. It was Adam Yates. It was Adam Yates in 23, stage 1. I think before then, was it Christoph stage 1 Nice sprint 2020?
Or was there a Milano victory somewhere?
No.
Not in the Tour de France, but in a Vuelta. But then again, Pogacar didn't ride that Vuelta.
Like they could have gone on the break with Narvaez and Wellens today. They could have cleaned up in a number of ways. So they're entitled to do it. And Wellens wins in the Tricolore. In the GC, there are changes. Because EF started to pull, but not maybe enough, because Carlos Rodriguez finishes with Group Van Aert on 136, and he leapfrogs Ben Healy. He takes 4 minutes 30 on him for free, more or less, in a break that maybe Healy should have been in himself. And he moved into 9th on 18.26. And Jordan Jagat was in the break, so he goes a lot closer. He's now 1 minute behind Healy.
I want to talk about that man. This man, like, we mentioned this guy maybe 2 years ago for the first time when he was riding for Nantes Atlantique, maybe almost 2.5 years ago. Like, this is one of those riders that at first he shows up and climbs well at like the French 1.1 race and stuff like that, maybe gets a top 10 here and there, and you think about him as like a rider that could get UCI points in those races. But then he keeps getting better, and he's literally on the brink of a top 10 at the Tour de France right now. Like, that's a really strong performance, and gotta love it. Genuinely, they've had some, like, Stef Kras has had some bad luck in his career, and once again, he was, I think, sad by the side of the road maybe yesterday and abandoned the race because maybe illness, which that guy has had so many injuries and sicknesses, pulling him out of Grand Tours where he had top 15 or top 10 ambitions and was close to it, and that's a shame to see, but it's then on the other side of the coin, great to see that Jordan Jagat is close to a top 10 and might be able to get it by the time we get in Paris, but he'll have to go in the breakaway to secure that though, because from the GC group, I just don't see it.
Yeah, I mean, everyone sort of in the, everyone in the top 10, no, maybe not Goal or Co, but yeah, Johannesson, Rodriguez, maybe not Johannesson anymore, but Rodriguez, Healy, Jagat, it's carte blanche to go on the breakaway. And that's what happened today. And eventually,
Narvaez top 10 in GC when?
Yeah, I mean, 13 minutes is a lot.
2 breakaways, La Plagne and Côte la Loze.
Yeah. So, green jersey, Benji. This is the strangest green jersey battle I think we've ever covered in the Tour de France. It's probably the one that's open the longest for deepest into the race. Right now, it's like everybody's trying their hardest not to win green. Pogacar's not doing intermediate sprints. Van der Poel didn't sprint at some finishes that suited him, and also maybe some intermediate sprints didn't go for, and then he was kind of forced to do it, and it was very strange. It was like at the end of week 1, he kind of tried not to be in green.
Yeah.
Milan should have a strong team around him controlling this break formation and making sure there's not these dangerous situations with MVP and making sure he gets to intermediate sprints. Milan's collapsing before our eyes. And so no one's really moving with green. I mean, Van der Poel is now 41 points behind Milan. Before the stage, he was 61 points, so he takes a full 20-point delta. The intermediate sprint on stage 16 is, again, after some flat, but we've seen that's no guarantee Milan takes it. I think what we're seeing, Benji, is that it's actually very hard for a pure sprinter to win the green jersey in the Tour de France compared to a classic sprinter like Phillips and Van Aert, Sagan. Yeah, Van der Poel. If Van der Poel contested the main sprints, he would be in green easily.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say, but at the end of the day, that's not how this Tour de France ran. And because of that, we see this special situation. Because Philipsen's crash impacted this massively. I'm still of the opinion that Philipsen would have cleaned this, but that's an alternate reality that did not happen. So that's just a hypothetical. And then, like you say, Pogacar, Van der Poel not exactly going for it despite having a possibility to win it. But also in general, I feel like it also hammers how significantly hard it is to control brake formation. And yes, we talk about little traction control brake formation, and I agree that they have not done it perfectly at all in a few of the stages. But it's also very hard to control in the first place when your sprinter is as pure as Jonathan Milan. But we're talking about Milan falling apart in front of our eyes. He does still finish with the Gruppetto every day, though. So it's not like I'm instantly worried about him OTLing in a mountain stage.
No,
you know?
but it's more like he jumps at the start of brake formation into the wind himself. Alberson wouldn't do it like that. They would have Jonas Rickard moving Philipsen into larger moves going to make sure he doesn't blow up. And also Philipsen is fitter than Milan. And so it's becoming closer because some of these intermediates that one assumed he might be taking, or even taking 10 points, he didn't take any today. So it is... Green is still really open. I mean, Pogacar's on 28 points. If he, let's say Pogacar wins...
Move on to and Corlalos.
Yeah.
40 points.
40 points, okay. Let's give him another. Let's give him Le Plan. So let's say Pogacar takes 60. He's on 283. So that means Milan needs another 35 points for Green. Still only
Wait. Pontu is 30 points.
Holy shit. Okay, let's see. Let's say Milan needs another 70 points for Green.
Yeah.
He should still do that. You know, like there's the Champs-Élysées intermediate. He should take 20 there. There's, okay, stage 20, you won't take the intermediate, but like, look at the stage 19 intermediate, Benji. I mean, he's got to take some points there. It's 8Ks into the stage after 900 meters, 5%. He can do that. Like there's the Lalo's intermediate, but this is assuming he gets into the break or Little Trek managed the break formation sufficiently that he's taking those points, but he has to.
But
so
the Valence stage is a sprint. So how many points do we see him take there, roughly?
I mean,
like top 3 in the stage minimum. So
could it not be an Asgren Abrahamsen stage?
It could be, but if you're trying to win the green jersey, you can't let those stages get away.
Yeah, I mean, but Thibaut Nice legs don't work when they're on the front for Milan. They work today, but
fair.
That means they got to control the stage. But yeah, surely, like other sprint teams, that's their only chance. I mean, Champs-Élysées is not a chance anymore. So yeah,
Pogacar attacks on the last one. Marta takes the green jersey away from Milan. It's happening.
Well, yeah, if Van der Poel attacks, Pogacar will follow.
Wait. Chris Froome did that at the Vuelta at some point, I swear. I don't remember the year, but there was a Vuelta where Chris Froome sprinted on the final stage, maybe in Madrid or something, to try and secure the green jersey. I'm trying to look through the years, but I have to go back a while because it's been a while since Chris Froome's days. In 2017, yes, he won the green jersey by 2 points over Matteo Trentin by sprinting on the final stage, if I recall correctly.
Well, there you go. Maybe Pogacar I think this green jersey battle is going to go down to the last stage and it'll be quite exciting. But it's a rest day tomorrow, so we will preview stage 16. It's a Unipuerto from Montpellier. They go northeast to Mont Ventoux. It's 150 Ks of mostly flat. Can be windy there. I'm not sure the weather forecast is as hot as Hautacam, and then they do the Ventoux. 15.6 Ks, 8.7%. It is a climb in 2 parts. They climb east on the steeper part to Chalet Renard. That's like 8 Ks at 9.5%. And then they turn left up the Bald Mountain where the tree line stops, and it's a little bit less steep. It's maybe like 7% for 4 kilometers and quite exposed. The wind direction plays a big role. And then the last few Ks are quite steep. The last 2.5 Ks like 9% average. And yeah, it's Unipuerto. It's up to 1,900 meters. Very famous climb, obviously. Last time it was used was in 2021, but it was a descent finish in Malocène. Van Aert won. Vingegaard dropped Pogacar and got caught at the end of the descent. Carapaz and Uran. And the break could win this, Benji.
the way
But
I look at this stage is,
I don't think it will.
UAE will want to win this stage, I think, because I feel like Pogacar's on this revenge tour of Otakam, Mont Ventoux, Col d'Alos. Those are the three where he really wants to win, I think, in this Tour de France. And Mont Ventoux is also the kind of mountain where you kind of want to win if you're a GC rider. Now, looking at that specific stage, the flat run-in does change breakaway formation. We'll see riders going to breakaways, the lighter climbers with tug buddies. So in the way that Simmons tried to get Skelmos into a breakaway a few days ago, we'll see the same maybe with a Mohoric for Lenny Martinez or stuff like that. But I also think the most important stages for Martinez's KOM or La Plana and Col de la Loz, because those have more KOM points throughout the stage. That being said, I would also say that there's two ways UAE can control this. Either they control break formation and a break goes that is manageable throughout the stage, or they do what they've done in multiple stages in the last 3 years, which is not really control break formation as much. A break forms and then control the gap towards it with the likes of Pollard within 2-3 minutes. And I'm sorry, but 2-3 minutes, at the end of the day, Pogacar wins on Mont Ventoux.
Probably, because they just got to control the flat. So it's not like yesterday where you were competing with what's his name? Sivakov controlling Aronsman. Aronsman's riding like literally every climb at 6.3 watts per kilo. That's a whole different story on 7Ks 8% yesterday on the Peresur to control, and then the valley and the descent, where he's taking more risks than you want to take as the yellow jersey group. Then Niels Pollitt's on the front with Wellens or whoever, and they just keep the gap at 4 minutes, 5 minutes. It's just a much easier prospect. So it's a historic climb. Pogacar will want to have it on his Palmares that he won on Ventoux, and so they're going to go for it. He's the favorite. Let's see if Vingegaard can follow Benji.
Well, that's the question, because dropping is a big question mark at the moment in terms of him dropping Pogacar is, based on what we've seen in the last week and a half, unlikely. When it comes to the rest of the GC, though, that's where probably is more interest at the moment, in my opinion. And then I look at GC and I see possibilities, but it's all about whether riders sustain their form that they've had so far, you know? Because, like, Lipovic, yes, he showed a bit of weakness in the final stage of the Dauphiné. He didn't lose a decade there either, but can he sustain the form he's had, which is the fast best climber in this race, until Paris? That's a possibility. Maybe he falls through the ice somewhere. Right now, he's sitting nicely on 7:53, which is about 1 minute and 20 seconds roughly only in 12th place. So that's a possibility. But also, Voekelin and Roglic versus Gal is an interesting dilemma for me, because I see Gal potentially taking 2 minutes on those two riders in the next week and coming into the top 5 by Paris. Is that possible? I think so.
I mean, yeah, it's possible. Like, anything can happen. We got Mont Ventoux, 55-minute climb. We got Col de la Loz after 5,000. It's a 5,600 meter stage, and I know it's the quote-unquote easier side. It goes up to 2,300 meters. Like, anything, if you crack there, you know, you can lose a lot of time. And then even the La Plana stage is, what, 4,600 meters, and it's up and down all day. So even stage 20 is hard. Even stage 20 has 3,000 meters of climbing. So a lot can still happen. I think Gold is coming into his legs at the right time for the Alps. I think in the Alps, I mean, he won on Col de la Loz 2 years ago, so Gold is looking good.
When is the last time that we saw in a Grand Tour the GC group fighting for a stage and an attacker from that GC group taking the victory in the same way Miguel Angel Lopez did on, was it Gamonitero? I don't know, but also in the same way that Jelle van Endert won on Plateau de Bay in 2000, whatever, 8, 9, whatever, or I swear Samuel Sanchez did that a few times for Euskaltel back in the day. Those moments, that's something you don't see anymore. Now that we've got the super teams that are controlling for their leader, and eventually it's a super team GC leader that wins. So the second and third tier GC riders don't often win a mountain stage anymore from the GC group.
Because there's no, like Gol is the only one who might do it, but because there's no pure climbers anymore. Like, Pogacar's the best climber, time trial rider, classics rider. So there's no, like, pure climber who's down in GC who you don't want to follow because they're going so hard, but you don't need to chase them because they've lost a shitload of time in crosswinds like Gol. if you actually climb, also better than Felix Gall. Now, maybe Gall on La Loza, he could be the one that breaks that trend.
And also, there's also the reason that because Pogacar and Vingegaard are far away from each other in terms of level based on the last week and a half, there's no fear from Pogacar that he might get countered or anything. So he doesn't need to play a game against Vingegaard on the climb that might lead to a third rider riding away with the bone. That's not what happens in the Tour de France 2025. So that's also part of the reason, I think. But those were good old days, I can tell you that.
Yeah, maybe we'll see it. Could happen, but I'm not sure we will. If the stage wins up for grabs from the GC group,
yeah,
if there's no breakaway, I think Pogacar will go for it. So Pogacar will be the favourite for Ventoux. I mean, let's see if Vingegaard can even just win the stage. I think it'll make the Alps a bit more interesting, La Loza and La Plan. So we're hoping, Ventoux will be the first big test of this week. But yeah, hope you enjoyed the recap of the crazy Stage 15 transition stage, and we'll see you after the rest day on Tuesday. Until then, ciao, ciao.